In the city of Bluefield, a once hidden artist and historian's work is now being honored with a permanent place in a local museum. I stopped by the installation's reception and brought back this report. The One Thin Dye Museum and Gary Balling's House of Art are now home to the work of the late George T. Anderson Jr., a prolific artist and historian who came from humble beginnings.
My understanding is he left school after the 3rd grade to help provide for his family, his siblings.
Anderson went on to become a master carpenter, building his home and working in the mines. His art began when his daughter was working with her school on a history project.
Her name was Angela Owens. We call her Angie. She was teaching in McDowell County, and she was teaching about how people moved out in the West. And my father said, well, I think I'll build a prairie schooner and a covered wagon. And he made them in the exact model that the picture showed and researched, and that's how he began.
Anderson continued his craft using that same method of working off of 2D drawings with a backing of extensive research to create these historically accurate modes of transportation, using resourceful ways to find materials.
He would get his material from scraps. He would go around sometimes to buildings that were being torn down and gather scraps and use the scraps from the buildings and old houses and would use them to make his models.
Anderson used those found materials to create everything you see, even the people. The only thing he outsourced were the horses, which he painted to match the eras. The exhibit in the former Ramsey School boasts Anderson's life's work. 65 pieces of historically accurate transportation miniatures spanning centuries of progress, a collection that had not seen the light of day in decades.
Most of the collection's been in storage for 30 years, and so we're thrilled to be able to showcase it here at the Ramsey.
The location of the exhibit is also a special location for Phillips, whose father's love of learning inspired her to become a teacher.
This is the first room that I started teaching in at Ramsey, room 201. This is my classroom. Talk about coming home. This is a perfect way to come home.
The collection is also inspiring members of Anderson's family who never got to meet him, as the artist passed away in 2008.
It's my great-granddad's exhibit. I think it looks cool and it's amazing, and it must have took a lot of time.
With its permanent place in Bluefield, Anderson's passion for education will continue to inspire generations for years to come.
I continue to be amazed by it, and everybody that's seen it so far, I think, has expressed the same thing. And so please come and see it.
Come and see it to believe it. You would have to see it to believe it. I think you'll be in awe.
And if you do want to go see it for yourself, Gary Balling's House of Art and the One Thin Dye Museum are open 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturdays.